As a new first-year beekeeper, I've learned a ton in the last 6 months. I've had to. But the more I learn, the more fascinated I am by bees. The life cycle of a bee is short by human standards, but so cool. Let's take a look. The queen is the center of the universe for a honeybee hive. You should always have exactly one queen bee in your hive. If you have more than one, then they're about to either fight it out or one will swarm with half the colony to go make a new hive. If you have less than one, well, you won't have a hive for very long. The queen's only responsibility for her life is to lay eggs. Without her, your hive's population will quickly dwindle unless the beekeeper replaces her or the bees make a new queen. More on that later. The queen will spend her whole day laying eggs, up to 3,000 per day. She won't even feed herself. She has other bees feeding her. Each cell that the queen lays in will have only one egg, and it's tinier than a grain of rice. It's so cute. If the egg she laid was fertilized, it'll become a worker or a queen. If it was unfertilized, it'll become a drone or a male bee. Okay, this will blow your mind. A drone has no father because drone eggs are not fertilized. But it does have a grandfather, the drone that mated with the queen's mother. What? The egg stage lasts only 3 days before it hatches and develops into a larva. Worker bees feed the larva royal jelly, a protein-rich, milky white substance produced by the hive. After a couple of days, the larva is fed bee bread, a nutritious mix of pollen, nectar, and honey. A larva looks like a curled-up worm and quickly fills up its cell. Once a larva grows big enough, about 6 days of living as a larva, worker bees put a cap on the cell. The larva spins a cocoon around itself and develops into a pupa. While in the cocoon, the bee develops wings, legs, body sections, and little hairs. As a beekeeper, we collectively call all the eggs, larvae, and pupa in a hive brood. It's a common term used to understand the health of a hive or queen. Do you have brood? What is the brood pattern? These larger capped cells are going to be drones. Drones are much larger than worker bees and need more space in the cells. Depending on what the bee will become, whether a queen, drone, or worker, the pupa will stay in its cell from 7 to 15 days. Once the pupa is fully developed, it begins to chew through the cap of their cell to emerge as an adult bee. You can recognize a newly emerged bee because it's much whiter than the other bees, but it won't take long for it to look like all the others. All bees have a job. A queen's job is to lay eggs. A drone's job is to mate with other queens. Not his queen, that's his mom. Ew. A worker bee's job will change throughout its life, from cleaning to nursing, building honeycomb, collecting nectar and pollen, guarding the hive, and many other duties to keep the hive healthy. While the queen is the only one that can lay fertilized eggs, I was amazed to discover that a colony can create a new queen without a current queen. Before we get to that, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my channel so I can continue making quality content. If you have a video suggestion, leave it below in the comments. Okay, let's say the queen suddenly dies and the worker bees realize it. Well, earlier in the video I talked about royal jelly. This milky white substance is fed to bees during their larva stage for about 3 days before they're fed bee bread. But if the worker bees instead gave the larva royal jelly the whole time, that larva is turned into royalty, a queen bee. Queen bees are extra long, so the worker bees will build upon the existing cell to make it much larger. The larger cell is called a queen cell and resembles a peanut. Worker bees will make 10 or more queen cells if they've determined they need a new queen. The first to emerge will become the new queen. If more than one emerges, they'll fight to the death until there's only one queen left to rule the hive. Now the sad part. Eventually all bees will die. Drones will die the first and only time they mate with a queen. A gruesome end for the first day on the job. If they never get to do their job, they will get kicked out of the hive in the fall because the hive doesn't want any freeloading drones to feed over winter. They'll experience a slow, horrible starvation or hypothermia outside the hive. Most bees are worker bees, which live between 5 and 7 weeks. The last job a worker bee has is foraging, gathering nectar and pollen for the hive. It's very common for a worker bee to die during their job as a forager. They're simply too worn out to continue flying. They fall to the ground and die. I'm constantly fascinated by what I learn about bees. I hope you find this as interesting as I do. Please come back to us so I can share my journey with you, tell you what I've learned, and tell you what mistakes I've made. Have a great day.